This week, with our assignment with the JStor Database, I continued my research into the Cherokee Indians and the Moravian missionaries that worked with them in North Georgia in the first half of the 19th century. Now, with the issue of the Cherokees and the Moravians, there is not a lack of sources. My challenge was finding the sources relevant to the time period and the topic that I was looking for specifically. Of course, there is a mountain of scholarship concerning the Cherokee Nation and especially the period of Indian removal and the Trail of Tears. But I was looking for a period of time, a couple of decades before that, the early 1800s, 18 teens and 20s, before the removal started. So that posed a little bit more of a challenge. In addition to that, I was looking for scholarship on their relations with the Moravian missionaries. And here again, there is a ton of scholarship on the Moravian church and missionaries. The Moravians established missions all over the country and all over North America. But I tried to focus on their work with the Cherokee Indians and other Native American tribes here in Georgia. So I found three articles that were relevant to my research and what I'm looking for. Now, in the first article, this one was by Gerald H. Davis, entitled The Moravians Plan for a Mission Among the Creek Indians, 1803 to 1804, published in the Georgia Historical Quarterly. This concerns the Moravians. Now, and while it doesn't concern the Cherokees directly, it talks about the Moravians' continued efforts of missionary outreach to Native American tribes and groups in Georgia. Unlike with the Cherokee, where they established a working relationship and a mission community in North Georgia, their efforts were not as successful amongst the Creek Indians who lived further south in around southwest Georgia. So this article basically explains what were their plans and then why they didn't come to fruition in the same way that they did with the Cherokees. So what this article allows me to do, it kind of gives me a compare and contrast between what happened at, say, the Spring Place mission in northwest Georgia and what didn't happen in southwest Georgia amongst the Creek Indians. So it's a good point of comparison. For the next article, by Catherine Fall, one was entitled Masculinity in the 18th Century Moravian Mission Field, Contact and Negotiation. And this is published in the Journal of Moravian History. Now, what this deals with is the concept of masculinity and how the missionaries approached this with different tribes. Now, this would not seem like to be a big issue, but you have to remember that the Moravians are coming from a very different cultural context than a lot of the Native American groups they were encountering. For example, the Moravians, who come from a originated in Czechoslovakia, Central Europe, these are agricultural societies, and they expected the family would farm. They were trying to encourage the Indians to settle the land and to farm, to basically imitate European culture. Now, with some native tribes, this went over well, but with the Cherokee Indians, this created a tension because in Cherokee society, farming was considered traditionally females' work or women's work, and men weren't expected to farm. So this was a tough sell to many Cherokee who were not used to this sort of lifestyle, and this created tension between them and the missionaries who were convinced that their future lay in agriculture. So this article kind of illustrates and highlights some of the cultural differences and the conflicts that arose between Native American groups and missionaries. My third article was by Clemens de Bayou, and it was titled The Diaries of the Moravian Brotherhood at the Cherokee Mission in Spring Place, Georgia, for the years 1800 to 1804. Now, this is by the Georgia Historical Quarterly, and it was exactly what I was looking for. I have already found one group of letters. The Bellew's articles gives me access or provided more primary sources for other people's perspective, their diaries and letters. So that is a good source, a good area to look for primary sources. So I found this assignment very fruitful, and I think this will help me advance my research.